The other day.
What's theirs?
We have too many printed boundaries.
That was from the other day.
There. You can put it in the thing. And then.
Good one. Oh, it's a button. Yeah, God. Thanks. That's nice. There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call this meeting of Town of Sylva Board of Commissioners to order. We went for agenda. First thing on our agenda is to approve it. So I would ask for a motion to do that.
Make that motion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any discussion? Then all those in favor, signify by saying aye and raising. Carries unanimously. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. That's also in your packet. Also need a motion for that.
I motion we approve the consent.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the consent agenda? And all those in favor signify by raising your hand and say aye. Now it's time for public comments. Don't see that anyone has signed up for public comments, so we'll just move on from that. Reports. My report is that I wanted to thank the Sylva Police Department and the Jackson County Health Department and the Senior Cancer Centers for sponsoring mainly our police department, putting it together. The Walk for Hope. There were a lot of people there.
About 100.
So it was a beautiful day and everyone enjoyed it, I think. And that's all I have.
I don't have a report. Thank you.
No. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I think we have a manager's report.
I do have a report. So most of our work for the past few weeks has been focused on the Allen Street and Bryson Park projects. The health department came this morning and gave employees that opted in to do flu shots. And for our employment update, Ryan Griffin is returning to the town as a patrol sergeant in early November. So we're excited to have him back at the police department. He's been working in Waynesville's police department since he left the town in 2016. And in Public Works, Hunter Lassiter will begin as the maintenance technician October the 20th. Hunter is also from Sylva and has been working for an excavation company. Jake and I are going to be out of the office tomorrow. We're attending the school government's practical analytics class in Asheville. And Western's homecoming parade is moving up earlier 30 minutes. So November the 4th, it'll begin at 6 p.m. to make the most of the remaining daylight. As far as the Bridge Park Stormwater Project, Equinox was the only firm to respond to the RFP. And Jake and I have been working to submit information to the Southwestern Commission for the Rural Transformation Grant application. And Joey Al with the Eastern Band notified the town in Sylva that the trail development project is being put on hold due to turnover in a key project management staff position. But once that position is filled, work can resume. So we'll push his update to the board until that project gets back on track. Any questions?
So Equinox submitted a proposal with pricing or just?
Not with pricing, since it's qualification based.
Okay.
And they can't
Once-
bid price.
So it's just their qualification. Yeah.
Right, once we contract with them or start negotiating a contract, then we can. Once they're notified, they receive the award, then we can start talking about the price.
So do we have to try to secure funding before we can award that? And get a price, or, I mean, we kind of have it secured with the ARP funds, right? Are we gonna look for grants first or go ahead and have them award it, or go ahead and award it?
So we will check with the grant on that kind of contract, but I mean, we have enough in that project with the ARP funds to go ahead and sign that contract.
They'll be acting in the same capacity regardless of how we fund it.
Y'all expect that there would only be one submission or should we?
I'm not surprised. We sent it, we advertised it publicly. I sent it to Equinox and 3 or 4 other firms.
Anything else?
I had a few calls and questions about it, no other submissions.
If we were only going to get one, Equinox is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I
know the area.
And as much work as they've already done on this project, I would say that other firms looked at their construction documents and concept plans and thought that it would be difficult to design off of somebody else's plan. If it was that.
That's right, because they did the watershed assessment plan and came up with the original concept.
And the concept, yes.
So I still unclear, are we gonna wait to hear back for the grant or award and then hope we get a grant?
I think we can go ahead and award that contract. I'll double check to make sure
Okay.
with the grant, but they probably wouldn't want us to sign a contract with the entity that's doing the work for sure. I don't think it will really matter with a landscape architect.
And just assuming that we go ahead and do the project, that we not, there's timeline that they gave us with the RFQ or.
All that will need to be worked out. We're still waiting. I mean, we're working on our grant application submissions like we talked about at the last meeting. That those will be due in January. And no, we'll be notified in January. So that, pushes the timeline only probably 2 or 3 weeks beyond where we thought it would be.
Yes. Any more questions of Paige? Then we'll move on to new business. Thank you, Paige. Allen Street Project Ordinance Update.
Yes, okay. So this has the revised Allen Street Project Ordinance. It reflects Worcester's latest slope stabilization amounts for their cost estimate, and it revises the contingency to reflect that estimate. There's a $20,000 rock allowance that's been added if they run into mass rock during the construction. And overhead utility relocation is estimated at $141,000. So the contribution to Allen Street fund balance has been reduced to accommodate for these increases.
So did I have that right? So this utilities and a couple other things came out to be more expensive, so we reduced the contribution to the Allen Street fund balance. And that's essentially just a reserve, right? That if it doesn't get expended, will roll back into general fund balance. Am I understanding that part of it correctly?
So it's the cash flow for the DOT match.
Oh, it's the cash flow for the DOT match. So it's the DOT contingency funds reimbursement.
Yes, so our hope is that could go back in, what's left in that could be put into capital reserves or into fund balance.
Okay. So essentially getting back the money that we put in from our first COVID money batch, essentially, well, it's just fund balance, I guess. It was just a general fund balance appropriation, but excess left over from that.
Right. Since DOT's money is a reimbursement.
Okay, I think.
Is everybody clear on that? Then I would entertain a motion to accept this amended Allen Street landslide capital project or
I'm just wondering how far we're willing to go with this, and this is triple what we talked about at the beginning of this project. So I'm afraid that we're gonna be on the hook for money.
Right now, we have it all covered with contingency. I mean, it's really our only option. And the best option. Right, I mean, the first ordinance update has 142,000 in contingency. And the bottom, the next one has 202,000. And we've gotten $3 million from the state, DOT money. I mean, kind of amazing how well we funded this without using our our taxpayer money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I guess that when does it, like, if we go over, if things go over, then we do have to start digging into town money. And I guess the question is like, how far do we dig? You know, so right now, everything is covered, correct? Is that right? So the total cost of the project is $3,400,000, correct? And then change. That was on your.
Yeah.
On your,
$3,423,882.26
$26, right?
in the construction. I mean, we still got the playground is not a part of that.
Mhm.
And what we've already spent.
Right, and so, and we got 3 million from the 3 million flat from the states.
Right. From the state budget.
Right,
that was for Bryson Park.
Yes.
the slide and the whole thing.
Design and to fix the,
And then 750,000 from state funds from DOT.
which we had to manage, right? So
Well, I'll make a motion that we adopt the amended Allen Street landslide capital project ordinance.
thank you. Is there further discussion? And all those in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye.
Alright.
This passes also. Okay. Next is the Bryson Park playground equipment grant project ordinance.
So this amended grant project ordinance increases construction and repair to match the latest cost estimates and offsets it by contingency. It doesn't include the sidewalk along Chipper Curve. Unfortunately, that had to be removed to meet the budget.
And some of this construction and repair money, the $1,997,000, that is also to fix the slope between Allen Street and the park. Some of that money's used for that, and that's some of that money that David just said, $3,423,000. So if you add $2,314,000 plus that, that's what we get. So, and that is another good thing that we can use that money to fix the slope below Allen Street and other money too. So do I have a motion that we accept this amended Allen Street, this Bryson, not amended, Bryson Park and playground equipment grant project? Okay. Any further discussion? Then All those in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
None opposed, so motion carries. Okay, next on our agenda is to approve the Allen Street Award.
Yes, so we have a recommendation letter from Civil Design Concepts, our engineer on the Allen Street and Bryson Park slope failures, to award the contract for the slope repairs and construction project to Worcester Engineering and Construction Incorporated in the amount of $3,323,882.26. This award approval is authorized under the emergency exemption. And the packet includes Worcester's formal proposal and verification of their licensure. And after the board approves the award and DOT approves the design, the appropriate entities will review and sign the contract, receive the contractor's bonds, and I'll sign the agreement. So we're excited to begin what's going to be the most complicated and expensive project in the town's history.
Finally. So you need a motion to allow you to do that.
I need a motion to accept Civil Design Concepts recommendation and award the Allen Street and Bryson Park slope failure, stating the amount to Worcester Engineering and mention that it's authorized under the emergency exemption and authorizing me to sign it.
Okay, I will.
Are you good with this?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll motion that we accept Civil Design Concepts recommendation and award the Allen Street and Bryson Park slope failure project in the amount of $3,423,882.26 to Worcester Engineering Group. And this award is authorized under the emergency exemption in NC General Statute 146-129E2. And furthermore, the town manager is authorized to execute the contract on behalf of the town.
We have a succinctly stated motion, so. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
And I likewise, because I can't vote. Motion carries, no nays, so I'm just excited that after all these years that we're gonna be able to do something and fix this in a way that will be hopefully permanent. Thank you all. Next on our agenda is resolution of intent, section 30 of our ordinances, streets and sidewalks. Our 2022-10 resolution of intent to amend section 30-14 panhandling.
So the board requested this after public comment September the 8th, and Commissioner Galva asked that this be placed on a future agenda. This is a lot of this language is standard in many cities. What would be called a panhandling ordinance. This does have a criminal charge, and ordinances that have a criminal charge can't be adopted on the date that they're introduced. So we have a public hearing scheduled for this November the 10th at 5:30.
A regular meeting.
Yes.
Let's put this on the agenda.
This is it on the agenda.
So we're gonna, if the board approves it, it will go on the agenda for November 10th for the public hearing.
Yes,
And we'll have discussions at that time.
yes.
I'll make the motion that we add to the November 10th, 5:30 meeting, the resolution of intent for section 30 streets and sidewalks, public solicitation. To the
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
So let's get it posted on the website for people to see before the meeting, or how does the public view it? This is on the agenda, just go to the agenda for this meeting for
Sorry,
in the
part of
paper.
our. Thanks to our new.
Oh,
agenda.
publish the hearing, into that there's gonna be a hearing for the actual document, just go to the agenda page. Pull it up.
Right, and we'll post it how we typically post them right before usually the Friday before the meeting.
Okay. We have a motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye, raising it.
Aye.
And we have somebody opposed. Okay, we have 4, 4, and 1 no. Thank you. Next is our planning board bylaws.
So here, I've added in the bylaws what the board discussed as far as term limits and updated the language. It had been several years since these had been looked at. Added the 160D language, and then when the planning board reviewed these at the last meeting, they wanted to move the meeting to the 4th Thursday of the month at 5, which actually was what we had in the bylaws anyways. So this will help as our staffing schedule, having it the same week as the town board meeting.
There's one thing I wanted to point out, and I'm looking for it, so I didn't write it down. Oh, okay, so the 6 members, the 6 at-large members are appointed by the town board. The ETJ member is appointed by the county board of commissioners. So then it says, in the event of a vacancy on the board of commissioners appoints a new member. Does that mean that, skip to the pages, we would, if the ETJ member stepped down, would we appoint them?
So if the ETJ member steps down, the county commissioners have, I think by statute, 30 days to appoint the replacement. And if they don't appoint the replacement, the town board can do it.
Okay, as in section 2. Okay, so we don't have we can't appoint that one when it goes vacant. I don't know if that needs to be clarified. It's probably intuitive, I guess. Because it just says that in the event of a vacancy, we appoint the new member. Maybe you should just say except for that one,
Well,
or is that just implied? We might be too nitpicky on that.
I mean, we can clarify that in it. I think since it's in a statute, that, I mean, whatever's in the statute would take priority over what is in this.
On section 6, where it says a maximum of 3 consecutive full terms, could they serve 3 terms and step away and come back, or?
Yes.
And then do they have public comments at their meetings?
Not generally, unless they are reviewing a board of adjustment. But really, the public comment is meant for the town board. You've seldom had someone show up for public comment at a planning board.
Well, then it's not, there's any need to change that. Then you can make this motion. Okay, so I'll motion that we approve the new bylaws and general rules of procedure for the Sylva Planning Board. Oh, I remember one more question I had about it. I should have written them down. Okay, at the end. So we're adopting these rules or about to, I just mentioned to, but they have the planning board has the authority to amend it. Is that right? Without our approval? At the very bottom, Article 5 amendments. It says these rules may be amended at any time by affirmative vote of the majority of the members of the planning board. Should that be the town board? Seem odd, if they could amend their. We'll have to read it off about that. I guess that's what we did with the police department take on vehicles, I think, but.
That was how it was in the old. In the former version, so I didn't. Change it.
Because they could then eliminate term limits if they wanted to. Right? I would think we'd want to be the ones to approve amendments to the bylaws.
But it's everybody else's opinion.
So it says it should be presented in writing at a regular meeting. So does that mean they can come up with the idea and then present it to us and then we can decide?
No, at their meeting. Preceding the meeting at which the vote is taken. Right? An affirmative vote of the majority of members of the planning board, provided that they brought it up at previous meetings and then voted on it at the next meeting. Which seems to make sense. You don't let bylaws change to accommodate something at that meeting.
Do you want to just strike planning board and put town board? Members of the town board? That's kind of what we're doing right
That's
now.
what
I would think,
I
right?
would think so. So you should be able to amend your
Okay,
motion.
so
This,
I'll motion to amend my motion to change the amendment section, Article 5, to strike planning board and replace it with still the town board.
any discussion on that? Is everybody good with that? Is our staff, is that good? Okay. Then, we'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of the planning board bylaws as amended and in the motion also that David made, signify by saying aye.
I,
None opposed. So if I said that right, that carries also. Now we'll come to the Petite bathroom discussion, Petite Park. And I want everybody to be able to weigh in on this and say what we need to say. But I also want to say also that we be aware of how many projects are going on now and how small our staff is. And make sure that we don't overburden them to make them do too much at one time. We have some big projects going on. So I will also say that I would like for Ben to start the discussion. Then after his presentation, maybe Jake and Paige can add something to it, and then everybody else can chime in. Does that sound like a fair thing?
Yes.
And then we can all ask questions of Ben, Paige, and Jake. Want to ask them what they say. So take it
Thanks.
away.
Good evening. I brought this matter to the attention of the town board because I feel it is something that needs urgent attention. For the past year, there have been lots of discussions about the need for public restrooms in a community like ours that is very busy downtown. We've been building a true center of town that is centered around Bridge Park. A prior town board had the foresight to convert a gravel parking lot into what it is today, and this board is looking to complete that work and finishing the project. I am excited to be part of that work. We've also recognized the need for more public restrooms to support our downtown traffic, and we have a new bathroom that we're planning on building. Also excited to be part of that. On top of these two projects, we are facing an unprecedented construction project to finally repair Allen Street, hopefully for the last time. Unfortunately, it has come to my attention through complaints from town residents, friends, and family that the only current public town restroom located at Petite Ridge Park is in dire need of a rehab. It's not something that's happened overnight, but it's something that is long overdue. Since I have taken an interest in the state of the Petite restrooms, I have heard from residents that it has been in a state of disrepair for some time. As far as I'm aware, there is no long-term plan for scheduled rehab, and I'm assuming that is likely due to cost. I would like to see in a rehab, more natural light, more ventilation, possibly some type of heating and air conditioning to circulate the air, get rid of the drop ceiling or elevate it, new surfaces, and any other suggestions from the board, town, or public. This year, we have an opportunity to fund this project via the Jackson County Tourism Development Authority grant system. And I've been in contact with them, as has Paige, and the grant application is due in January. I feel that this is an opportunity that we should not squander and that there is no guarantee there will be funds in future grant cycles. I have spoken to Odell and he is willing to volunteer his time in producing a scope of work statement that we can use to apply for this grant. In closing, I feel that the town residents and visitors deserve a proper public restroom, and I ask that the town agree to meet with Odell for a scope of work statement in order to apply for the grant, and use the grant money to hire an outside contractor to meet the public restroom needs of our town prior to the start of our 2023 tourist season that begins with greening up the ponds. And I would like to refer to our mission statement. Again, it's to provide efficient, high-quality services, encourage partnerships, and proactively plan for the future to meet changing needs. High-quality services are not being met with the current state of the bathrooms. And I am happy to volunteer my time and grant writing or any other need that the town deems necessary and in my scope to provide. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I also did out our budget priorities that we did last year, what we voted on that we would work on during this year, if you want to pass those down, just so everybody has those for their discussion. Y'all, is there something y'all want to say right now?
So, I mean, we agree that we would like to redo the bathrooms. They do need improvements. Our concern, though, is the number of huge projects we have right now with Allen Street and Bryson Park that are both very irregular, complicated projects. And the Bridge Park Stormwater Project, the public bathroom, and it's a lot that all falls on Jake as the Public Works Director to oversee those at once. And if you remember the timeline from our retreat, we had so much scrunched up in the next few months. Applying for the grant application, I'm happy to do. That will take such a little amount of time. And most of it is probably information that we already have. When I met with Nick, he mentioned that it opened in January and closed in March. So the TDA board would approve it in March. So there's really not a way that the bathroom could be built or redone before bringing up the mountains at that point. What would work with Jake's timeline and the other projects we have would be starting this after the Pottery Festival next year.
If we applied for the grant, is there an expiration of when that money has to be utilized?
There is not.
No.
Yeah.
So are you saying you have the bandwidth to apply for that grant in this grant cycle, but just wait to perform the work?
That would be my request.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
So will there be bathrooms? What's the current timeline for the railroad bathrooms to be built?
Odell said he felt like they could realistically start in March.
So they could be done prior to or around Green of the Mountains or something.
Or optimistically.
Yeah, but for the season.
So the only concern I have is that grant application. Is it so simple? Do we not need to have quotes from contractors in order to get awarded that?
Yes, so we would need quotes and a budget, but when I looked at it, the most complicated part to me looked like event data and who would be served. But I think between the TDA and the chamber, we could, and all the data you saw that Nick had about Greening Up the Mountains, we could utilize that. And the scope of work, that was very kind of Odell. If he wants to do that, we could put that in the grant application. That could also be utilized when we get quotes or bids.
Well, I think what you're asking is just get the ball rolling, like to get a number that we need to have.
Yeah, I don't wanna be here next year. I may or may not be on this town board next year, and I don't wanna, see this thing just go away. It's not happening overnight. Can you pull the pictures up? Would you mind? Thanks. And, and if that's the way it's gonna go, there needs to be some kind of temporary, because it's just not acceptable. Even for the winter.
I think if y'all want to prioritize this as a budget priority, then there's a time and a place to do that. You haven't previously done that.
Exactly, that was a mistake. But I mean, we've got wires hanging out, the drop ceiling is half gone, the lights are just hanging there. It's like, there's the soap that's in there. Actually, I was like, oh, we're putting, bottles of soap in there. But then I went in there, but it's actually someone like some homeless person was there and said, no, I took the soap from the free box at the park and put it in there. So that's how that got in there. Those little blue things of soap there, but there's no soap, there's no mirrors. This thing is like completely falling apart. It's not safe. If someone were to, slip and fall on that thing, it would fall over. The other one, I can literally move back and forth with my hands. There's all this kind of leakage down here, water running. I don't know about that, but this is what I was talking about. I've not been in the ladies' bathroom. This is, there has to be something we can do because this will be like this for a year from now and it'll be worse. And it goes back to like the broken windows, theory in policing. If you fix the broken windows, then there's less crime because people are taking care of it. But with this, it's just going to be more and more prone to vandalism. For sure, I don't want to miss the grants, period. That's like my big thing. First and foremost, to start this, so it's not a year. Because this is a missed opportunity. If I had been keyed in on this, I would have been pushing hard for this last January. But we didn't have the money to fix it anyways. Now we have
it's in the shape that it's in. Your pictures show years, literal years of cobbling it back together as quickly as possible, just to make it serviceable.
Right.
So keep it open.
And really, it's our responsibility to get it funded, to get it repaired. Right. And like you said, we haven't had the money for that, but we also didn't make it a priority. And I think you brought it to our attention. It's clear it needs work. And I think we have a plan to get it fixed that fits with the grant cycle, budget, and with staff's time. But one thing I don't want to do, because we have lengthy debate at the start of every fiscal year as to what our priorities are. And for example, the Bridge Park project, it was like the first month I was on the town board is when we started that process of getting the watershed assessment plan done. And we are just now finally getting to implement that, and we have the grant cycle due in January for that. And this is a hot topic right now, and it obviously needs addressing, but I don't want to have that happen at the expense of the things that we have as a board have prioritized and in what order. So I think, we've got it on there now. Sounds like it's reasonable for us to apply for the grant, meet this cycle, and keep these other projects that are higher priority at a higher priority and keep moving this along and get it fixed next year. right? That sounds very reasonable. to me.
It's represents our town though, and when people come here, I was down there the other day, someone's like, you know, when I was just coming out of here, like, where is our public bathroom? Like, yeah, it's over there. You know, I don't know what to do if there's a temporary kind of thing. The thing I worry about too is that, yeah, is the railroad bathroom gonna be there in March or so, whatever, you know, sometime around there, or bringing up, you know, that's one thing. If it isn't, you know, then does that get pushed back? Is there a way to have this? If we have the money, I don't know. I understand there's lots of, this is a hard thing to do. But if all of a sudden railroad gets pushed back again, then we're still stuck with this and we're talking about this year from now. That's my concern.
Yeah, we had the mountains, we use porta johns for bathrooms, because we don't have a facility that handles that crowd.
I'm using it just not the event itself, but just the kind of, it's the start of the season. And folks. You know, that's when we start to have concerts on a creek, especially, it gets especially busy and, you know, just the outdoor things that, and we're getting busier. I mean, like, people are using, Bridge Park all the time, you know, not just the town sponsored things. There's other folks that are not there all the time. Yeah, and I don't know if that's, but anyways, that's my push. And if you guys are with me on that, great. And if you're not, then, you know, I will leave that up to you all to come up with a.
I've got some more information on the whole deal, if y'all let me share that.
Sure.
I'm gonna go here, I'll be in there, sorry. Dan, I don't disagree with you at all. I don't for 1 minute want you to think that I'm saying that those bathrooms are okay.
I understand. And I know you take pride in the town and I don't want to come across like I'm coming after you because it is this a long time.
Sure.
It's you.
I think you talk about a scope. I've already developed a pretty detailed scope, met with a contractor already. We're looking at about $95,000 to do it right. And I think we can do that with the TDA money. Some things we're talking about, fixtures, toilet sinks, everything stainless steel, lights, skylights, heaters that are tamper proof. The reason that heater's in the shape that it's in is because people jerk it out of the wall once a week. Stall partitions, either concrete block or some other destruction resistant material, and the drop ceiling's got to come out because people just swing on them like that. Timing, as far as that goes, you've got grant reporting, bid processes, permitting, project management and oversight. Those are substantial time commitments. If the TDA grant is awarded in March, we're going to have the county board of commissioners approval in April. Then we'd be looking at 6 weeks worth of bid solicitation, 1 month to contract. These are all approximate, but you know how these things go from dealing with these other projects. Then 1 to 3 months for material procurement, construction, start date, scheduling and stuff like that. I'll point out that depending on how things were to overlap, if we were to start all this right now, it's entirely possible for all 3 of our park facilities to be closed at the same time. Bryson Park due to the Allen Street landslide, Petite Park for this, Ridge Park for the stormwater improvements that we're making. So that's a consideration. If we don't time this correctly, then we won't have any public facilities open for anything. I think it's huge that there's no spending deadlines on this. We can get the grant award and we can sit down in budget season and allocate this money properly. You guys can vote as a group to prioritize and make this project just like you've done with these other projects. And I can go into as much detail as you'd like me to about the work that needs to happen down there. But that can also be a discussion for another time as well. Town of Sylva right now has $6.8 million in pending contracts for projects. And to put that into a little bit of perspective, our operating budget, general fund budget this year is $4.9 million. So we got a lot hanging out there in the breeze right now. The Allen Street project stands alone as the most expensive and complex project that the town of Sylva has ever dealt with. It's very fluid. There's a lot of changes. Paige, myself, and Eric are all learning this as we go because it's not something we've ever had occasion to have experience with. You know, there's multi-party involvements. We've got Jackson Paper, which we're going to discuss here after a while. There's a lot of ins and outs. Paige and I, only thing we've gotten accomplished the last 2 weeks is Allen Street, and that is not going to change anytime soon. On top of that, you know, trash pickup, recycling, road, sidewalk maintenance, mowing, landscaping, building maintenance, trail systems, watershed work, Pinnacle Park, all that stuff. None of that ceases just because we've got these projects underway. Myself and my crew are currently at an absolute maximum capacity. I've been on this job for a little over 4 years now, and I don't think I've ever balked at anything that the board or the manager has directed me to do. As sincerely and honestly as I possibly can, I'm asking you right now, let's schedule this for March of 23. I will gleefully take it on then. Please let me get some breathing room with these other projects. And I appreciate your consideration on that. And I'll take any questions you got too.
Well, I just want to say thank you for doing the, you know, the estimate, the work behind already, all the stuff we've done for the basket. You know, I had no idea you've done all that, and I appreciate that very much. And can I add one more thing? Sorry, because one of the things we talked about last year too, on our priorities list was getting Jake some help, because we knew, you know, some kind of extra help, you know, project manager kind of stuff, or let him be the project manager and take some of his other jobs. I don't know if we need to revisit that at some point in time to give him some breathing room, but that was something that we had talked about last year. So I'm done.
And y'all approved an additional employee for me. He's starting on the 20th. The part-time guy has been a lot of help. We're good. We're fully staffed once Hunter starts, and we'll be fully staffed. I've got a phenomenal crew. I've got a new crew leader in the last 6-8 months that's doing a fantastic job. I can't speak more highly of my crew, but please don't put any more on us right now. Greg, you had a question?
I just want to know that the bathroom is not going to electrocute anybody.
I will promise you that the bathroom will electrocute
I mean, it looked like the wiring was new.
anybody.
It's sheathed wiring, right?
Right.
And then that heater, if somebody stuck their hand in that heater, would they? And that would be a stupid thing to do, obviously, but.
It's turned off at the circuit breaker panel right now
Okay,
because those are exposed because the new one's on.
well, do you think maybe we should just cover it?
Well, we can't because all the pipes will freeze if it gets cold in there. We have to have heat when it gets cold.
Oh, I was gonna ask about that. Yeah, you do. That is, you do have to have it, like the pipes will, that's your, to keep it from freezing.
Should we maybe replace that unit, just replace that one unit that looks really dangerous?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you say you had one on order?
Mhm. We go through those really.
Okay, yeah.
And another
I think all of
consideration-
this stuff- I think all this other stuff,
Right.
we're okay. It's not gonna-
In the design, when we do come to the point where we're ready to do this, there are a lot of design changes we can make to make that facility more destruction resistant. It isn't
Right.
currently very destruction resistant.
Well, the technology for the heaters from the 70s.
Right.
So, yeah, obviously we'll put mini splits or something else.
Mhm.
That light that was hanging from the ceiling, is it hanging by the electrical wires?
No, it's hanging by a ceiling tile wire.
Okay,
Yeah,
Totally
that
different.
would be excellent. Metal sheet.
yeah, it's not, but it's not gonna fall on anybody.
No, ma'am. It isn't.
Do you need a motion at all to start the grant process, or are we just good with the discussion?
I think we're just in discussion.
I have a question. Are there certain stipulations in that grant that will solve those problems or?
From what I've looked at so far, I don't see any.
So are we good with this without a motion? To go ahead and tell Paige to proceed and use Jake's information and that. As soon as you can submit it in January, that's when they'll do something.
And I mean, and if there's some help I can volunteer, if there's anything I can do, I'm glad to do it.
Thank you.
Now it's time for us to go into closed session.
Okay, so I make a motion that we go on pursuant to GS 143-318-2A3. Go into closed session to consult with our attorney.
Okay, we have a motion, any discussion? And all those in favor signify by saying aye, and raising your. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, yeah.